Ever feel like you got tricked by a contract? Like maybe you signed up for that gym membership and then bam, hidden fees everywhere?
Eh.
Or that lease, totally one-sided.
Yeah, you're stuck.
Totally.
Yeah.
But get this, there's this legal thing, unconscionability. It's like it's there to protect you from those moments where you're like, wait, you can't do that.
It's a safety net. Contract law, that's where it lives.
Huh?
Basically, if a contract is so messed up, so unfair, the court's going to be like, nope, we can't enforce this.
So not just a little unfair, but like, whoa, did a lawyer even look at this? Kind of unfair.
Exactly. It's got to be so unbalanced that it makes you question if anyone actually agreed to this in the first place.
Wild. So how do we spot these contracts? What are the red flags that scream, uh-oh, this might be unconscionable?
One of the biggest ones, lack of knowledge. Like, you're drowning in legal mumbo-jumbo and boom, hidden clause. Didn't even know what you were agreeing to.
It's those terms and conditions nobody reads.
Exactly. And it's not just sneaky clauses, it can also be a power imbalance. Huge corporation, their lawyers write a contract for someone who's never even seen a contract before.
Right, like they're playing chess and the other person doesn't even know what the pieces are.
Exactly. You gotta know the rules of the game to play. So lack of knowledge, power imbalances, big red flags.
Gotcha. Anything else? What else should we watch out
Oh,
for?
yeah, another huge one. Lack of voluntariness. One person feels pressured, like forced to sign, no chance to negotiate.
So if I'm signing with a metaphorical gun to my head, not exactly a real agreement.
Nope, courts know that. Duress, undue influence, that's not a real meeting of the minds. Imagine you're facing foreclosure, and this company swoops in, offers a loan modification. Sounds good, but the interest rates are crazy. Hidden fees all over, you feel like you have to sign, even though it's a terrible deal.
Taking advantage of someone vulnerable. Seems like fairness is at the core of this whole unconscionability thing.
100%. To really get how courts decide if a contract is messed up, we got to look at the types of unconscionability. There's substantive and procedural.
Heard those terms before, but break it down for me. What's the difference?
Okay, so substantive unconscionability, that's about the actual terms of the contract. We're talking terms so bad, so one-sided, it's shocking.
Like the substance of the deal itself is just ridiculous.
Exactly. Imagine peppercorn rent. Landlord charges, like a single peppercorn for rent. Sounds crazy, right? It's extreme, but it shows that courts care about the deal itself being fair.
Makes sense. So substantive is about the terms. What about procedural? What's that focus on?
Procedural unconscionability, that's all about how the contract happened. Were there shady tactics to get the signature? Hidden fine print, language that's impossible to understand.
So less about the terms themselves, more about if there was trickery to get the contract signed.
Exactly. Imagine someone's rushed into signing, no chance to read it, no lawyer, or key info is buried in the fine print, or it's written in lawyer language that nobody understands.
It's about making sure everyone knows what they're getting into, right? Level playing field.
Yes. Fair, transparent, no coercion, no deception.
Makes perfect sense. So we've got these two types of unconscionability. One's about the terms, one's about the process. But how does this actually work in real life? Have there been any big court cases where they said, nope, this contract is just too messed up?
Oh yeah, definitely. And those cases are fascinating. They show us how the law has changed to protect people from these unfair contracts. There's this one case, Williams v. Walker Thomas Furniture, really changed things. Back in the 60s.
Williams v. Walker Thomas Furniture, right. What happened there?
So you've got the single mom struggling, buys furniture on a payment plan. Seems normal so far, right?
Yeah, sounds pretty typical.
Here's the thing. The contract had this clause, basically made it so the payments were spread out over everything she bought. So even if she almost paid off one thing, if she missed a payment on something else, they could take it all back.
Wow, that's harsh, especially if she's just trying to make ends meet.
Yeah, and the court, they weren't thrilled about it. Didn't rule in her favor because of a technicality, but they made it clear preying on vulnerable people with confusing contracts, not cool.
So even though she didn't win, it sent a message.
Huge message. It really pushed for stronger laws to protect people.
Makes you think about those rent-to-own places.
Absolutely. This case, it highlighted how contracts can be used to trap people.
Are there other cases that really show how this unconscionability thing works?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Remember Jones v. Star Credit Corp? The one with the refrigerator?
The welfare recipients, right, got hit with that insane price.
That's the one. Talk about power imbalance and lack of knowledge. Those folks got taken advantage of.
Totally. So the court, what'd they say about that one?
They were not having it. Called out the company for predatory lending, straight up, said charging that much for a fridge, especially to people struggling, totally unconscionable.
It's interesting. These cases They're like really obvious examples of unconscionability, right? But what about those situations where it's not so clear-cut? When is a contract just a bad deal, and when does it cross the line?
Good point. It's not like the courts are going to rewrite every contract just because someone didn't get the best deal. There's got to be something really off, either with the situation or the terms themselves.
So how do courts decide? What are they looking at?
A lot of things come into play. They'll look at who had more power in the deal, where they both experienced, was there a chance to negotiate, and are the terms themselves so one-sided that it's just shocking.
So it's not just one thing, it's like a whole bunch of factors that make a judge say, yeah, this isn't right.
Exactly. And speaking of not right, what happens if someone thinks they've signed one of these unconscionable contracts? Can they just yell unconscionable and get out of it?
I wish it were that easy, but I'm guessing it's not.
Nope, not that simple. You can't just cry foul. Gotta prove it. The person who got the bad deal, they have to show evidence, build a case that convinces the court that this contract is so messed up it needs to be thrown out or fixed.
It's just like any other legal thing, right? Evidence is key.
Exactly. They gotta show those red flags we talked about. Lack of knowledge, uneven playing field, that sort of thing. Gotta prove that the terms were so bad, no reasonable person would have agreed to them.
And if they manage to prove it, what can the court actually do?
Couple of options. They can nuke the whole contract, pretend it never happened. That's usually for the really bad ones, where the whole thing is just tainted.
The whole thing gets thrown out.
Gone. But sometimes that's too extreme, so they can also do surgery on the contract. Just remove or rewrite the parts that are unconscionable.
So they can fix the bad parts and leave the rest.
Precisely. Makes things more balanced, gets rid of the unfair stuff, but keeps the parts that make sense.
Like a contract checkup, just removing the unhealthy parts.
Love that. And at the end of the day, the court just wants what's fair. They've got options, which makes sense, because there are so many ways this unconscionability thing can happen.
This whole unconscionability thing really makes you think twice about those contracts you sign without reading.
Right. It's one of those things you don't really think about it until it happens to you.
Yeah, exactly. So for our listener out there, maybe thinking about a contract they signed or about to sign, what's the most important thing to remember?
Awareness, for sure. Just knowing the stuff exists, that's huge. Makes you look at contracts differently, read the fine print, ask questions, don't let anyone pressure you into signing something you don't get.
Knowledge is power, right? Like they always say.
100%. The more you know about the stuff, the better off you are. And if you're ever in a situation you feel like something's off, talk to a lawyer.
Never hurts to get advice from someone who knows the ropes.
Exactly. And, as we wrap this up, it's good to remember the law, it's always changing.
It's not like it's set in stone.
Right. Right. New situations pop up, new challenges, the law adapts.
Keeps things interesting, that's for sure.
Definitely. So, as you're out there signing leases, loans, even just buying stuff, remember this conversation. Are the terms fair? Is one person calling all the shots? Do I really get what I'm signing?
Good questions to ask yourself, definitely. This has been eye-opening. Really makes you think about those contracts we encounter every day.
Absolutely. And hopefully our listeners now know a little more about how to protect themselves.
Exactly. Knowledge is power. Until next time, everyone, thanks for listening.